Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about RStudio IDE and how to use it, what are the different features, and I'm going to also show you some settings which you can adjust before you actually start coding. All right. So I have already launched RStudio here in this on the screen. So as you can see that I'm getting some welcome message from it. And so if you already downloaded your R installation, installed R, and you also installed RStudio, I told you that they will connect automatically. RStudio should be able to find R installation. So when you fire RStudio, it is going to show you the version of R it found on your computer. In my case, it is 4.3.1, and all the R versions, by the way, have their names. And by the way, any version after 4.3 is good enough for our course. So as you can see that mine is downloaded in June 2023, so it is a little bit old, right? Almost more than a year old, but it is going to work perfectly fine. So I don't care. But in your case, if you are downloading it new, so you may want to download the latest version. Our developer team loves to name different versions of R based on the cartoon strip Peanuts. So that these names would look familiar to you if you have read those cartoons in the past. All right, and so then there will be some other placeholder text that tells you it's a free software, it doesn't come with any warranty. So if you screw up anything, please don't blame us. All right, and that's it. That's all the stuff is. Suppose you do not want to see any of this there, so you can actually use a very simple keyboard shortcut to clear this text. So once you launch it, you see a lot of text. You can clear it by pressing both on Windows and Mac. The same key combination is Control L. It will remove it. Now Control L can be used again in future whenever you want to clear this output. Now what exactly is the window that we are working with here? As you can see on top, RStudio tells you the label console. So this is the console where we will execute the R code. So anything that you are going to write there is passed on to the R engine underlying R, and then it is going to execute it. The console also doubles as an output uh, board. So you execute a command and it is going to show you the output in the console. So that is why when we launched R, it gave us all that welcome message that was also visible in the console. So in this case, for instance, if I use R in just as a calculator and just do a very simple calculation, I want to know what is 5 plus 7. So if you say 5 plus 7, and I'm going to hit enter or return key on Mac. When I do that, this is the output I get. So notice that where we have this greater than sign, that is the line where we provide our code, and just below it you will obtain the output of that R code. So that code is executed and you get the output. RStudio IDE makes it easy for us to distinguish between the two by using different colors. So for R code, it has used, in my case, blue color, and for the output, it has used black color. So this console, the concept of console is very common in many software. People use these consoles where you can interact with the underlying programming language directly. That is the advantage of using a console. All right, so this is one of the windows. Now, if you are a MATLAB user, you might find this layout of RStudio familiar because this is copied from MATLAB. I should say influenced by MATLAB. Uh, so typically in MATLAB, there are 4 windows. In RStudio, when we launch, there are 3 windows, but we will quickly add the 4th one very soon. All right. So in RStudio IDE, we have some control over these windows that we are going to see. And I'm going to explain to you each window, what they do and what is the application of these windows. But as you can see that there are these simple layout changes we can do, is that by stretching this we can move up and down. Now this, I understand, is going to be much more flexible in that new IDE that I mentioned to you, Positron. But that is for future. uh, I'm pretty satisfied with the way RStudio has used this layout. I've never had any problem with the default layout. I've always worked with this and I've been quite productive. So uh, you don't have to necessarily go to a new IDE just because it has better layouts. All right. Okay, so before we get into anything, let me first show you a fourth window, and then after that we are going to examine each window in a little bit more detail. So for the fourth window is for your R code. So the difference between the console and the R code window is that in the console, you are providing line by line operations in R. They're executed and you get the output. But let's say that you do this, like you write line by line and you get your output and everything works fine. You close this RStudio session, all the history that you have in the console is gone. So you want to save that somewhere, right? So ideally what you do is that you do not write your code directly in the console. Instead, you write the code in a text file. Okay, and that text file is going to keep your code forever because you're going to save that code. Okay, um, every time when you execute the code in that code file, the text file, that code will be passed on to the console. So you can actually visibly see the code being run in the console and the output is generated. So your code file is not going to execute anything. It is just going to retain the code for you. So that is the fourth window we are going to get now. And without a lot of explanation, and this is what I'm going to explain in the class, I'm going to open a new file here. So click on the file button on top, file option. I'm going to select new file, and I'm going to select in a file type that you have never seen before. It is called as Quarto document. I'm going to select that, and I will provide a lot more detailed explanation about this in the class. So let's select Quarto. Or it's creating a new Quarto document, and it's going to ask me a few questions. At this point, I'm just going to hit create. I'm just going to accept all the defaults. All right. So this is a document that is created. Now it looks complicated, I understand, but you will get familiar with this in no time. It's going to be very easy for you to use. So I'm just going to, over here, I'm going to well, I won't delete it. I'll just keep it for the time being. But here, this file now is a file that holds my R code. Interestingly, this Quarto document format allows you to also write English, plain English. And this becomes a combination of just writing your English and R code. So the way it works is that you write it like this. You say Quarto, this is all English. This is written in a format called as Markdown. And then you have to declare, this is the part where you say, hey, we have some R code coming in. And so that is how you declare. There are these three backticks, and then you have these curly braces. Inside that you have written R that declares this is R code, and then you execute this. Now as you probably noticed that there is this play button next to this code chunk. Okay, what does that do? So well, it is going to execute that code chunk, and it is going to show us the output both under that code chunk as well as in the console. So let's do that and see it for ourselves. So I'm going to run this 1 plus 2 operation, and you will notice that here I get this output 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, but I also see the same output. So my code 1 plus 1 is passed on to the console, which of course uses R to execute it and shows me the output. And this is what I'm getting it here, right? So this is what the console is doing, is actually using line by line code and showing the output. However, this is the document that if I now save this permanently on my computer, the next time I come back, I open the same document, I run the same code, it is going to work, right? So that's the permanent the text or code that I need to write. We will learn more about this document format in the class, because this will take me some time to explain in detail. You can, if you are interested, you can start reading about this from quarto.org. This is the website. From here, you can start reading it. It's a very, very powerful format. It is going to allow you to create documents or reports or slides if you want in various formats. So you can use PDF output, HTML output. You can create a Word document. If you can create a PowerPoint document, you can create a LaTeX document. So you have a bunch of options available because of this document format. So that's its advantage, but we will learn about that in the class. All right, so this is the first window. So this window over here is going to give you the it is going to show you the code. Notice that on top over here, there is something called source and visual. There are two these options available to you. So just a second, let me launch a new app over here, so that will help me annotate it better. Over here now, this is source button, which is selected at this point. But what if I now select visual? What happens? So I get a nice looking document here. So some people like to code like this. I do not. That's why I always start with this source and I stay there. But sometimes people like to code like this. And then you can see over here the difference between the source document and the visual document is that in the source document, everything is in the same font. So whatever font you are using, it is a monospace font and everything is in that same font. And here you will see that this was the title of this document, Quarto, and it is not the title, but the first is a header of this is the section, and that header is declared using two hash signs, but in visual they are rendered nicely as a bigger header, right? So, and you can also see that this font is not a monospace font, it is a proper whichever font they have used there, that is being shown to you. So clearly this looks nicer, but it is not coding for me, and so that's why I don't use it. I stick to source. All right, so this is our first window. Then console, very critical. Console, everything happens here in the console, right? So console is a R console. It is going to execute only R commands. It cannot execute anything else. For example, if you want to search for something, so in Unix, in directories, if you go to your terminal and you want to list out all the files in that terminal, you type ls there, ls command, right? List file, the ls. It is not going to work here. It doesn't understand anything outside R. So you can give a command that it doesn't understand. Okay. So remember, console is only for R, and as RStudio makes it very clear, it tells you that, hey, this is this. We are running R here. Okay. The next two buttons over here help us. So first button is very critical, but we barely directly deal with it ourselves. But this button tells you it's a terminal. So right, I don't know on a Windows machine what you call it, but on a Mac there is a terminal. On a Unix or even Linux machines, I think there are terminals. So people use terminals there to interact with your operating system or a computer or a directory structure and so on and so forth. So for example, in this case, I am in my home directory here on my computer. So I can interact with my operating system directly from this terminal by typing some stuff. All right. Uh, as I said, that it's unlikely that in our course we will use that. But when you are um, doing some serious work, I mean, we will do serious work in our class also, But I'm talking about when you actually start coding for some professional projects. That is the time you will use terminal quite often. I don't know whether people prefer to use RStudio terminal. You might actually use a terminal on your own computer. It's the same thing ultimately, but uh, terminals do have different capabilities, and RStudio terminal may not be that capable. So that's why people might use some other terminal. But you have the terminal available here. Finally, background jobs is a tab where it will show you if there are some background jobs or if they are running. And this we will see in some, again, we do not directly interact with it, but you will be able to see the application of this if you are running uh, or you're creating some apps maybe, and it is going to make use of this. So for all practical purposes for our course, you should more focus on the console. Now, here is another interesting thing is that because this quarter document that I showed you, it also shows you the code, allows you to write the code and shows you the output of the code right underneath. A lot of times, this console is not that, uh, I mean, you need not refer to it all the time. There are some reasons why you will have to look at it, and I do that quite often. But many times, when I'm coding only in Quarto, I do not look at the console all the time. I just work with this. Uh, but then there are situations where I need to run directly something in the console. And so that is where I will switch to console. All right. So I'm just going to make it a little bigger, not that big, but not that small either. All right, then we move on to the third window, and it has a bunch of tabs, right? Files, plots, packages, help, viewer, presentation, and so on. So let's go into the file tab. And the file tab is literally Explorer on your Windows machine and Finder on your Mac. It's just going to list all the files and folders on whichever directory you are in. So how do I know where am I right now, right? So we saw in the terminal shows that I'm here in this like a user directory, but I want to know the full path of that. So in R, we can go down to the console and ask R, hey, do you know which directory we are in right now? For instance, if you save this file, right, and it doesn't ask you to save it in some specific space, it automatically is just going to save it somewhere. I want to know where exactly it is going to save it. What is that somewhere, right? And in R, the concept is this concept of this folder where R is going to store something is called as working directory. So I'm going to type get wd, and it is going to show me the working directory, and it shows me this is the directory. Users RZC782. This is my office computer, so that is my ABC123 that you see. So this is the directory. That is where R is going to save stuff and so on. So that's all it is. And in that directory, I have all these folders that you see over here, right? These are the ones that you see over here. These are from that RZC782 directory, right? Now, if you're working in some specific directory, you can navigate from here. Now, this files thing is files tab is pretty limited in its functionality, but it will allow you to do things like move some folders, delete a file, rename a file, and like 3-4 things it will allow you to do. It's not that capable, but it does its job. All right. Next, plots. If you create any plot and we will be creating a lot of plots in this course, they will start showing up here in this plot. Packages, both R and Python uh, make use of a lot of third-party packages. So they are written by multiple developers, and they will do a lot of these interesting things for you. So the languages are capable, but they of course cannot do each and everything. So they became like, again, the engine, and then on that you build more things, make use of that engine to do more interesting things. And these packages are listed here. If I click on this, it will show you all the packages that are listed on my computer. Uh, when you install R, it will install a bunch of packages automatically, but then over a period of time, you will have to start installing uh, packages whenever required. Uh, there are thousands and thousands of packages out there for R, and on Python, it is probably hundreds of thousands, because Python is a general purpose language. So it has data science applications, but also many other non-data science applications. In fact, it has many more non-data science applications than data science applications. R has a very strong um, uh, help culture. Like the documentation is amazing, and it has pretty detailed and a standardized way to show the documentation. So you can check out the documentation of any function from any library or any package in this help tab, and I will also show more how this works in the class. The next two viewer presentation that we don't have to worry about at this point. There will be some situations where we'll use them in the class, and that will typically happen when we will work with JavaScript based visualizations that will be interactive, and they are not plots. They need HTML viewing, and that is where they will show up in this viewer pane. But in the class, most often we are going to play with this the 3-4 tabs mostly. Finally, uh, we come to this environment. So environment, and there are again bunch of tabs over there: history, connections, tutorial. But environment is the default, and that is the most commonly utilized tab, I should say. This tab will show you all the objects you have created in this specific instance, and they will be available to you. For example, if I create a new variable that is going to hold something. So let's go to the console. So I'm going to the console here. All right. And notice in the console how I'm going to type something. I'm going to say later, I will say my var. This is the variable I'm creating, uh, equal to 5 times uh, you know 17, and the answer is 85. So this is my var is going to be 85. But if I do this, so if I save this multiplication into this object called as my var, this object will start showing up over here. Notice how in the environment now I see my var and the value is 85, right? So the more you will learn about the data structures in R, you will be able to see the importance of this environment pane. All right, so this is the basic layout of RStudio, right? Code, console, your files and other stuff, and then environment. And then there are other tabs over there. You do not have to worry about them at this point. When we come to that, I'm going to show you what's the use of these tabs. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to show you now a few settings that you want to understand in RStudio. So first of all, um, do you have to work with the font that comes with RStudio? And the answer is no, you do not have to. Like in my case, I'm using a paid font called as Operator Mono, but there are a bunch of free fonts that are available to you, a bunch of them. So you can go on Google Fonts website and search for monospace fonts over there, and a bunch of monospace fonts that are pretty nice looking. I would suggest, if you are interested in installing your own font, I would suggest looking for uh, just a second. So Google Font, let me open that first. Google Fonts website. All right. And then there is I think a button for look for monospace over here, this classification. All right, monospace. And then it will show you all the look for the trending or very popular, right? Most popular, look for that. Most popular. Roboto Mono, but yeah, this is the one. IBM Plex Mono is very nice font. Then there is Courier Prime. This also is very popular. PT Mono, JetBrains Mono. JetBrains is another IDE, and this is a font they have created. Okay. And then finally, there is not Fira, but Fira Code. This is the one that I was earlier thinking about. I forgot its name. Fira Code Mono is a really, really nice font and very popular too, as you can see. You know, it is. So these fonts are really good. Anonymous also is a very nice font to use. Now, how do you know, like, what I mean by nice? I mean, this clearly is not a nice font, right? It is not. I can't use it for creating artful visualization. No, this is a coding font. So how do you define a good coding font? Well, a good coding font should have more legibility. You should be able to read it clearly and not get confused between numeral 1 and lowercase l and lowercase I, capital I. uh, all these can be really confusing. So you want a font that distinguish between them really cleanly. You also want to make sure that your font is not confusing between O, uppercase O, and a zero. So ideally, if the zero has a slash, is a slash zero or a dotted zero, then it is going to be easier for you to understand. It is different from others. So you need to get get into that more, like compare those different things, and then also see which one you like better on your eyes, right? Ultimately, which is more readable for you. Sometimes people like to use, like, for example, this VT 323 is a font that looks very popular for some reason. There's no way I'm ever going to use that font, even if it had perfect, like, everything, like, is nice about it, but this is a terrible font for me to read, so I'm not going to use it. So it's your personal choice. That's literally your personal choice. Okay, so you pick this font that you want to use. Now, with that said, we just want to highlight that this Fira code is a font that is sorry um, yeah, Fira code, sorry, Fira code is a font that is that has ligatures. So the advantage of ligature is that, I'll show you what is the advantage. In my case, if I type things like, so in my code here, right, let's say this code, right? So in this code, I suppose I say my var, uh, and in R there is a assignment sign, so which is usually shown by a less than and a dash, and you'll notice that it converts it into an arrow, right? So this is the property of the font. This is called as the ligatures. And so similarly, if I ever have to write a condition, if something like that, right? So if the condition is like, if my var is equal to, so if you say double equal to, they added and it became, they merged and became a longer equal to. Or if I say is greater than or equal to, look at how it changed it, right? It is not. So this is the ligature I'm talking about. And uh, there is a new operator in R now called as a pipe operator, and the pipe operator is shown as a vertical, like, pipe, and then a greater than sign. But look how this changes to a nice triangle like this. So this is possible through some fonts that have ligatures. Not all the monospace fonts have ligatures. So look for the one that will give you a ligature. I believe that Fira. Now I'm get confused at Fira Mono or Fira Code. Which of the two has a ligature? But one of the two has a ligature. Let me see. I may find that on my computer here. So uh, how do you change the font, right? So most of the things that you are going to change here, they will be aesthetic wise. By the way, aesthetic wise, whatever you want to change, you will find them in tools, and within that, global options. Okay, tools, global options, and then appearance. Over here you can change the stuff. So you will notice that I'm using this operator mono, but I could have selected something else, right? IBM, yeah, Fira code. I was correct. So Fira code has ligature. So this is the font you can use as well for ligatures if you want. If you don't like ligatures, that's fine. Then you can use something like IBM Plex Mono, or I don't know this. I forgot this Sony Mono. I think it probably comes from Chat GPT. I think PT Mono is another. Menlo. Some of them are installed already by RStudio. Um, so select whichever font you want. And by the way, when you select a font, right, it will show you here how it will look like. So for example, if I select, let's say Fira code, right, I go for regular, this is how it will look like. And you'll notice that here, this uh, ligature doing its job, right? Well, I will go back to the one that I like to use, which is, operator mono. And then uh, you can change the themes also here, by the way. So they have only two options, either modern or sky. So you can change the themes. So I think with sky, it is going to be like blue maybe, but I have to exit this to come out. Or let's say if I apply, what happens? Yeah, it's barely noticeable, to be honest. And very uh, crucial for most programmers is your editor theme. So editor theme is where people spend so much time actually changing the stuff. So for what is editor theme? So right, I've just gone with the default, but let's see if I go with vibrant ink. So if I select vibrant ink, it will become a dark background. So if I apply this, this is how it will look like, the whole thing. And so here, by the way, using this, changing this theme might actually help you on the top. Oh, it's not showing any difference, so I don't know. Xcode is another nice one. I stick to the default. I don't care about the dark themes, but a lot of students love dark themes, so you can select that. Dracula is one. Now, another interesting thing is that here you can import themes, and I can link to the website from where you can download these themes and add more themes here if you want. So I used to use a Nord something theme previously. It used to give like a light blue and gray color. It used to look nice. Uh, so you have option to import other themes also. So I'm just going to select my default, go back to how it used to look like. So this is the first set of things you can change. The other thing people like to change a lot is the coding, how you do the coding. And so you can change all of that by clicking on this code. All right. And here, you can actually wait a second. Sorry about that. I think it is from the tools and global options. And within that, you have code. Sorry, I was incorrect there. So yeah, uh, global options and code. And within that, you can select a bunch of things here as well. So you can like how you want to show this, a highlighted selected word and this and that. And so you can go over this. As you can see that I'm not a guy who does a lot of customization. Apart from the font, I have not changed anything. So it's not that critical for me. But it's up to you. That's why they have so many options here. Something that I like to also do is to use the native pipe that I showed you, the triangle. So I have just selected that. I don't know whether this was default or not, but this is what I like to use. Then sometimes people also add stuff like auto completion, diagnostics, and so on and so forth. If you want, you can even update the keyboard shortcuts, right? That is also possible. But so there's a bunch of things possible here. I'm not going to change anything. Okay. All right. So that's a quick introduction to RStudio IDE.